Natalia, it's all yours now. Good afternoon, dear audience, and it's a great pleasure to see all of you. It's a great pleasure that cultural social projects, you are still here, and some of you feel that you're socially responsible. Thank you very much. And we're crème de la crème. We're the final panel members. This is the final panel, yeah. But we got, you are the final one. You are the best one. I'm Natalia. Kryvda, PhD in philosophy, professor of the Department of Ukrainian Philosophy and Culture, Tata Shevchenko National University of Ukraine. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The moment I saw who would be participating in this panel, I realized it's now or never, and I've decided now today. Thank you very much, and the people who are going to be replying simple and complicated questions are Serhiy Prytula, Tata Kepler, Serhiy Sternenko, and Olga Rudneva. I'm not going to be telling who they are. You probably know them well. And let's start with a simple question. Dear colleagues, the professional defamation, and this is what it looks like when the professor is talking. If I say we speak for 2 minutes, we speak for 2 minutes, that's it. The first round of questions have got to do, why are you working in this particular realm or field? Why you've decided or somebody has chosen, or why are you working in this field, social responsibility? Why are you working in this? Who's going to start? Since I'm sitting here, let me start the story. It all started in 2022, and a friend of mine, and at that moment co-worker Pablo Petrichenko from Prytula's fund. I was actually attending the meeting of the fund. He gave me a piece of advice. I was there and asked, what should I concentrate my attention when it comes to assisting supporting our armed forces? He told me, buy drones that will kill the Russians. I kind of liked it, and I carved it in my brain. And in summer, another friend of mine, currently he is the serviceman of the 53rd Regiment, Vitaly Kolomyets of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. He showed me how the Armed Forces unit Sigma used for the first time an FPV drone in the battlefield. It looked fantastic, science fiction like. And one FPV was flying, another FPV was Mavic was filming everything, and that was a very moment I realized it was the thing that would be extremely important in the future, and we needed to develop this. And the moment we've realized we could start buying those drones, we started buying them, and step by step, we were fully responsible for supplying the units with these drones. This is what we currently do, where we are procuring FPV drones only. Sometimes we buy some additional devices, infrastructure pieces to allow using of these FPV drones in the battlefield. But what we buy mostly are drones and drones once again. And Pavlo actually played very important role. So we need to raise a moment of silence to memory these fallen soldiers. Thank you very much for honoring the fallen soldiers, but I'm definite that Pasha should be satisfied with the result of the conversation we had 3 years ago. Thank you very much. So we remember actions and deeds, not words. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having invited me, and it's always a great pleasure to be surrounded by these strong people and with the people who would like to discuss something else than something else and lots of other topics. A couple of years ago, I was watching this TV series that was called Peaky Blinders, and there was a chief character, a main protagonist, Thomas Shelby. He was like a brother of several other brothers who were criminals, and they were doing some, bad stuff, but they were tough and cool and everything. And in one of the episodes, the youngest brother did some stupid stuff, and their mother was punishing the young boy, saying, "Why did you do this?" It's a shame on our family. The elder said, you know why he did it? You know why we're doing this? Mom says, why? Because we fucking can, or because we fucking can in British accent. So I sit down and I thought to myself, this is a great line that you can use to explain everything. You do something because you can or because you can't. So if you can do something, if you're not smart enough, don't even start because you get in the way of somebody else who can, who know better than you do. In 2014, my very first sortie was to Chongar, to the State Department Border Troops unit. There were three people. There were three people, and two of them were brothers. And I started providing assistance to them, then followed by Alpha unit of the Special Security Unit, Special Service of Ukraine, and some other units. And then you knew people, you knew what they needed, you have the expertise, and you knew other people. And when it was the time when the enemy invaded, you needed to make only one step. You needed to get into the same group those people who are smart enough, who know, who can. So ever since the first day of full-scale invasion, Lyosha and Roma Sinitsyn and Pasha Petrichenko, Anya Vosgreka joined the group. And so these are the people with great experience. And
because we were working for 8 years, now we became the ones to whom people were donating because we had a reputation, and reputation has been made by all this mentioned above. Thank you very much. Emotional, rationale, networking, and expertise. And networking is a set of people who thinks commonly and act commonly. Thank you. Tata Olga, please. Good evening. Well, I started to do tactical medicine starting 2014. That was accidental because I was asked to bring some bandages from Israel, and I'm a Hebrew speaking, and I had some Israeli childhood, and I brought a box, and this box multiplied 2, 3, and more, and rolled over. And the scales of my volunteering in 14, 15, 16, and 17, that far from being the same significant as something that I do now. I think, first of all, medicine is a very complicated thing. It's very difficult to fundraise because people think that donations goes easier for TechMed rather than drones, but those who are part of that community says that drones are fundraising better than medicine. The other thing, the funds like me, it's difficult to engage international donors because we consider to be a militarized donors because people abroad, we say we help medics, but they said these are uniformed medics, but we say they were not in uniform yesterday. So this is sort of a vicious circle, very complicated, but as tremendous feeling is when you understand that you're adjusted to a miracle. I don't believe that we save someone or my fund saves. We believe that medics save lives and we help those medics to bring people back home. And we collect different statistics regularly, and those are impressive. When the number of heavy casualties, easy light casualties, those who were stabilized because of our deliveries, because we have some brigades with whom we interact very closely. Well, that's according to Azov. Some 85% of medical supplies comes from us, although we're a small fund, only 5 of us working there, but that's the case. And Serhiy quoted this film, and I will quote the Israeli Edgar Keret writer. In one of his novels, he wrote that the first man who took a stick in hands was not the smartest or not the the best, but probably that need it more than others. So I believe that volunteers and people who do something, they should not do it better than others. They probably need that more than others. And then it works, and then it is critical. So that understanding is very critical for me, that we help to save hours, that our hours are coming back home, not always completely healthy, but they're still alive. There is another little area. We use this title on the shield instead of cargo 200. So we help those died in action to be returned home. Thank you. Well, I probably would say that we do what we can, not because we have. Before the war, we had no clue what we can, and I'm sure the majority of us had no idea what we can do, that we survive drone attacks, missile attacks. You can realize what you can when you face the biggest challenge in your life. You may think that I'm going to be a superhuman, I'm going to overcome, and here comes the end of the world, and you understand I'm not that type of person. In order to realize, you have to face with that situation. So what we do in Superhumans, we create a different image of Ukraine. Instead of people with no limbs, we would like to have people with beautiful artificial limbs. We won't have people without with wounds, but we would like to have people with their stories. When they tell their stories, they tell the war. So we create a different image of Ukraine, but in time we realized we built a different Ukraine, not only on the streets, but in the medical sphere as well. Why personally we continue doing so? We work at the edge with the miracle. The majority of people who come to superhuman should not stay alive because of a long medevac. So that's the first miracle, that these people are alive. The second miracle, that person comes in a wheelchair, and 2 weeks after, that person walks and give you a hug. So you like a Jesus, you return ability to walk. Give a hug to relatives, hold your child's hand. We always say we are not hospital. We are the center to restore lost opportunities, and we return people to the front line. These are trained soldiers invested by the state, if that was a deliberate evacuation, and we can save the limbs. So we return people back to active life, and it's not our insight. Messinea mentioned, we give the belief to those who are in the military that if something had happens, we will get them together. There is the way out. Thank you. So my second question, colleagues to all, I understand that it's a very difficult terrain, personal, administrative, but where to get powers, where to get force, and how your respective organizations and you as individuals, how do you focus, where you get your resilience, and what is your motivation? Any insights, any hints, any thoughts? You say whatever you believe to say. Thank you. My motivation is very basic, very simple. Every day, I personally talk to those who receive our support. Of course, we have communication with commanding officers, brigades, other formations, but our priority to talk to operators, those who deploy the drones that we deliver. And I personally talk to them even on the way here, 5 minutes before our discussion. I replied to one of the militaries at his text. As far as I have also the element of publicity, you become a sort of a psychologist for these people. And if something goes wrong, they talk to you. They try to complain on their issues, on their problems, maybe tell their day. But all that together with the feeling of responsibility towards them, gives you that resource and power to move forward, even when it's too difficult, when it's another sad and sorrow happens, too much of those. But that is something that moves you to move, to advance. Because if they have not lost their faith and belief, if they keep working, fight, save their fellow men, why should I be deprived, living my beautiful life in comparison to their conditions of this frontline militaries? So communication with them, ability to listen and hear their problems and their pain, and just a normal human interaction with these people, that is really motivating and really forces you to work more, try to help more. For me personally, the worst case is when we are unable to help someone, when we have to refuse. Unfortunately, it happens from time to time. Our resources are not endless. Funding, whatever enormous funding, maybe it has its limits, and the most difficult is to refuse in help because their lives may depend on that help. But if to simplify even more, just empathy. You cannot be impartial when things like that goes on. When someone dies whom you knew, you talked yesterday, when you hear just stories about their problems, someone lost a vehicle, someone had bad relations with a commander. So it's been empathetic. If you can empathize, you can stay impartial, you can stop, and you have to do more and more. So, like that. Thank you. I did not expect that type of answer. I thought of some structural approach in terms of your organization. Somehow you have to keep your people operational to be a role model. Well, that's the second part of my response, that I could provide, that such a systemic work has real outcomes on the ground, on the battlefield. And there were cases when Novopavlivka been attacked by the enemy, the only drones that were able to stop their advancement after the drone operators' firearms, the only drones who stopped, that's the ones that we supplied to that unit, to the 42nd Brigade Baron unit. And we demonstrate these examples and explain to the team so people can see their roles and their sort of contributions, starting from office manager or accountant and up to project coordinators. Even I talked to one of the accountants and I said, it is not the most exciting job. You sit, you pay invoices. Well, not everyone may think so. Well, I mean, our given accountant, that you pay invoices, you keep records, you fill tables. Someone likes that. For me, it's not the best job in the world, but I did that before the fun foundation. But I said, have a different look. That's the record book of Russian death. What a great metaphor. Every line here, that's the revenge and support to our Ukrainian militaries. So when you look at that, it's much more exciting. Thank you, Serhiy. Well, I start with the end in terms of motivating the team and imposing the role model based on personal example. It's critical not to overpress with that model, because for many years in process, you say you are an Iron Man. It does not mean that your people have to match your role model. In 22, I had a huge rotation in the fund because I exhausted my people and I was incorrect. But it comes with some experience when chaos transfers into the system and some interaction protocol emerges. On my personal behalf, there are two things that keeps me most and motivates me most and stimulates. So first, maybe not is not that obvious, so maybe vice versa. Kids. I have 4 kids, and they, because of their age, had no clue that they are my mental health officers. Every day is very intense, every day is very exhausting. There are times when you feel that you are at the edge, but you come home and you dissolve. Everything goes away, that being exhausting, disturbing. You sit at a little battery that touches your face and you are getting recovered. My last leave happened in January 22. That's my dream. But so far, my leave, that's the period when I'm home and before my kids go to bed. The second critical element, that's the result of your efforts. That's things that pushes you to the work every day. Back in 14 in summer, I brought to a 3rd battalion a thermal vision, thermal nights, and that was something like from Lugansk Oblast. I have not even reached Kyiv yet when a battalion commander called and said that they destroyed the enemy SLF, and without the thermal vision, they were not able to find. But ours spotted and killed enemies. So that was an inspiration, because here comes the result. We defend our state, we defend our people, and our soldiers killed enemies. Great. And you start to work more and more. And every time when I get a feedback, even a small one, but Captain Makagin in Twitter places pictures, so armored vehicle before and armored vehicle after, and it says that
This is what we got from Prytula, and it was hit by the enemy drone, but those who were in that armored vehicle have survived. Last week we're on the right track. Last week I took my kids to school, and when then I went to the Lvivsky Croissant Cafe. It was 8:40 in the morning. I'm an old man. I don't look attractive in the morning. A young man approached me and he said, "Prytula, let's have a picture." I told him, "Take a picture of the croissant, you and croissant, because the croissant looks better than I did in the morning." So I kind of lost him, but then I was drinking my coffee and he approached me and he said, "I'm here to express my gratitude to you." For what? And he goes like, you changed our attract vehicle and you are updated it in Zaporizhia, and I'm flying and no one will kill me. Now I'm behind the wheel of that tracked armored vehicle and I'm happy. I have enough information. I'm inspired enough to continue, to move on. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Let's think in one sentence. As a motivation, you have the love of your children and killing of your enemies. This is the surrealistic world that we all live in. Thank you very much for being friend. Tata, what gives you the sense, what motivates you? Let me tell you a story. There's a project on procuring antibiotics for the wounded soldiers because we have there's a big antibiotic resistance problem in our country. I think we can talk about it. Wait, let me start. I've been sent the surgeons from Theophania send me a picture on the surgery table. There's a half of the person lying on the table. There's no buttocks. There's nothing, nothing. And they tell me, Tata, we need antibiotics. We talk to everyone, but the chances are pretty low. And I'm thinking who I am to say no, definitely. And I started thinking, and if it can let the person live for 3 more days, so his wife travels and says her farewells, and he's got a small child. So we bought those antibiotics, and we bought more. And months later, we bought more antibiotics, more and more. Bought something else, more antibiotics, more additional medicine, and then And half a year later, and I say, and they say yes, they pulled that man from the hands of the death. He was en route to save his brothers in arms. He was a driver in a military vehicle. And an FPV drone hit his vehicle, and he was literally cut in pieces. So the Feofania hospital pulled him all together and grew muscles on his bones. And half a year later, the chief of the anesthesiology department of the Feofania hospital calls me, and I hear his voice tremble, and he almost cries. He's so much touched. He goes, Tata, thank you very much. We managed to save him. He spent 111 days in intensive care unit, but he's good now. He's better now. I was visiting him at the hospital. I was visiting another patient, and the doctors tell me, "Would you like to meet Tetris?" Because he consists of pieces. This is the joke that he's making. He calls himself Tetris. I said, but he cannot lift his hand, and the chances of artificial limbs were next to zero. Well, we made artificial limbs for him. He was visiting me months ago. He's currently using two artificial legs. He visited me with his wife. Currently, he's visiting his child in the town of Ternopil. They call me every week. They send me some family pictures of theirs and simply ask me how I am, how my team is. They bring some sunflower seeds, and I'm looking at him and I'm telling you, he's a true miracle, because his chances were next to zero to survive, and the surgeons made the miracle because he is a surgical miracle in the country. He's one of a kind. He's only case of the kind. And he was telling me I will be back standing on my 2 feet. My child will go to the first class, and then my child will get married, and I will have all the pictures of all these events, and I will send all these pictures to you. When I have cases of the kind, I know it's not in vain what we do. A friend of mine once told me that you can measure the good that you do, but by the amount of the impartial pain. I think that happiness is measured with this amount, the pain that you've managed to prevent, to curb. And when I see boys and girls who are back from pretty bad shape, and the quotation, Tata, thank you very much for your medicine. Your tourniquet saved my life when a leg of mine was pulled by a bomb last week, but I'm fine. These are the messages that I receive, and this is something that helps you continue. It is difficult because we work on the verge of life and death. My phone is packed with different pictures of different people who are wounded. And I look at those pictures, and I look and I say, good, the surgeons made an open heart massage and the heart started beating. And this is and some other people, when some other people see person suffering, I, on the contrary, see the miracle happening, because people are being helped, people are being dragged from the hug arms of the death, and this is all about life. And I know that life is possible no matter what. So this is something that helps me move on. My team is a smaller number. We're all worn out and tired, but we're all extremely motivated because we started way back in 2014, all of us, and we share the same common principles, basic principles, and there are tough days, extremely tough days, but we are trying to do what we can. But and then it depends on each and every person. Some people needs to go to a museum, some person needs to have a shower, somebody needs to jog a kilometer. So no matter what, no matter how hard we try, how hard we want, we don't have that right to stop. We need to move on. Thank you very much. And the motivation is a cool thing, but sometimes you can run out of motivation. Bad news. Motivation is a good kick to start, and only the senses enable you to take what you do to the end. The motivation is the first year of the war. We were extremely motivated to finish this war. The discipline is the second year of war. When the third year of the war, we were going to the shelter. We were donating. Was the discipline, the diligence. But now, what can save us is the sense. We need to find that sense, and our senses as individual. And like for example, accounting work has got sense. Correct wording is another sense. Correct wording, we greet the patient with, when you have four limbs, you know how to get up. When you have one or two limbs, you use totally different mechanics to get up. And we greet the person with the first fall. Sashko today fall for the first time. I run to him and I greet, no. Olga, got up. I didn't fall for the first time. I got up for the first time, Miss Olga. This is what he tells me. So you see how senses change. And I tell the story again and again. At the times of war, superhumans could be simplified. Why did you make everything this way? We did what we could, and we built a hospital the way we wanted to build it. So we built a good, and we turned out to be a good hospital. And Losha Tunel, the captain of the Invictus team last year, upon leaving our hospital, he told us, "Thank you very much for building the superhuman the way you did it. Thank you very much for my artificial leg. This is the very Ukraine I had been fighting for." And they are fighting there, and we're building the Ukraine that they're fighting for. So when they're back, they can find the Ukraine that they're fighting for, you either at war or you are doing everything for war. This is my sense, and you have to find new senses again and again. When the person makes his first step, this is your sense. The person gets a cup of coffee for the first time. This is good. There's a patient who was sleeping for 6 months with eyes open. We'll let him sleep with open eyes. This is incredibly great. We'll let the person consume food, socialize, smile. We bring faces to the people. And this year, my sense was the targeted evacuation we did with the Azov Suprovit organization. This is what Tata supports, and Tata does a great job. And Tata helped. Tata is the wallet of Azov Sprite, and my motivation this year was the targeted evacuation. When you have to deliver a person, evacuate a person, not later than 72 hours after the wound, you can save the person's limb before the infection manifestates, and you can save the person's limb. And for the first time, I saw how a helicopter was landing at the Superhuman parking lot, I thought this would never happen. I thought that we would need until the end of the war. But now we evacuate people with helicopters. This is great. And the patient who was brought to us with a helicopter, we saved his limbs. We have a person with no leg, and the other hand, he has only four fingers. So if you don't have the thumb you won't be able to use with other four remaining fingers. He doesn't have one hand, and he's got only four fingers, no thumb. Bad luck. And we were having the British mission visiting us. So why my decision was to take a two and put it in the place where there was a thumb. At least it will look nice if it's not going to be functionable. So he was released with this two placed onto his hand and with the artificial right hand. So you see that you bring back the capacity of human to live normal life. You can train doctors. You can show that the health system can work, can function properly. And these are your senses. Motivation is a good thing. Short. If you are jogging for 2 kilometers, you need to be motivated. You put on sneakers, you run. If you run 10 kilometers, you need to be disciplined. If you run a marathon, damn, look for senses, and you are the only one who will find senses. And these senses should be yours, not somebody else's. A few words about the motivation. About motivation, let me tell you about another important aspect I have failed to mention, which is extremely important, and let's hope that it's never used with any of us. But when I got shot in the leg on the 1st of May this year, the Russian security service did it. I survived. It was a light wound, and day 1 and day 2 was okay. I was all adrenalized and I survived. But then on day 3, I realized that I could have died. I could have been actually killed, murdered. And I told to myself, I need to retaliate to those who did it for my leg. This is yet another motivation that you can add to the list of your motivations. Thank you very much. We have yet another circle of questions, and we've agreed upon that. But I would like to express my gratitude to the audience. We are conscious of the fact that it's because of your work and it's because of your hundreds and thousands of hryvnias of donations. Our funds, your funds, dear colleagues, are up and running. They exist. They kill the enemy. They save lives. And all my family is at war. And last week, my daughter, the paramedic with the Ukrainian Armed Forces, she received money from the community, not for her personal, but for the tactical mat unit that she's a part of. Please move on. Don't stop.
Because of you, someone kills the enemies and the Russian death record book is running. Someone saves lives, so just one set of questions to stick to the time. So very targeted question, if I may. Dear Sergey, I prepared myself. I was prepared in advance. The whole family in the military told me what sort of questions should be raised. So MOD procures not the best quality drones. They have to be redone, including your fund as well. Spending resources on that. What should be done with that? Everyone would have 2 minutes. Do we mean FPV drones? Because the drones, it's quite a large number of types according to our reviews and analysis. 128 operators, some 60% of FPV drones supplied to Defense Force, either unoperational or not fully operational. That requires minimum modernization or some comprehensive update. What to be done with that? The question is very simple. Have to press and press and press, and those who procure poor quality drones, that's what I did. When we did that review, I went to the general staff, to the MOD, Arsen Zhumadilov, with his defense procurement agency, all other stakeholders adjusted to the procurement cycle of drone centralized procurements. I talked to them. I talked to a deputy commander-in-chief. We discussed what's wrong with the procurement system, and somehow, I do hope, I start getting little positive feedback. So I'm a bit optimist here for 2026. And if the situation is not going to change, we're going to press and press and press. Dear Sergey, you fundraise 1 billion to protect cities against Shahid. Should not be the state, first of all. So is there a demand that you, are there requests that you would be willing to say no? And whether the charity funds could rely more and more effectively use that national funding. According to the legislation, funds cannot rely on the national funds. If we mean that any central or local budget donates to our fundraising, if would that be the case, then the governors should not redo the roads, and that would simplify their jobs. Whether funds are better managers of the fundings than the state, yes, better managers, and that's the disaster and catastrophe that people come to us from National Anti-Corruption Bureau and ask, where do you get these things or such things? Or when investigative journalists demonstrates that Prytula fund procures at 420,000 and state buys a different price, because there are no state funds, there are taxpayers' money. We are more effective. Speaking about anti-Shahid drones, we are more effective. We're more flexible. We are different from the state, that there is a drone. As of now, it is effective. And state says, great drone. How about contracting it from now and forever? 100,000 drones to be produced, sign the contract, and manufacturer stops producing 2 months after this drone is not effective, because Russians upgraded their Shahid another in a row, and this drone is not efficient anymore. So what manufacturer does? Nothing, because they got a contract, long-lasting contract with the state, and diversing from specific parameters is the problem. Why do you need that to do? Because the state will be after you. So manufacturer produces and the state keeps buying and deploying. There was a panel before us, and there was a CEO of one of the companies who fights and who also runs his company, who was at the last European Business Association Forum. There was a phrase said, do you know what's different between state-owned and volunteer-owned? State one delivered, we open the box and we go and fix it. Volunteers one been delivered and we take it and we use it. And it started, not now, sorry for taking more time, just feel the difference. Our fund was engaged in restoration and repair of spoils of war. Vehicle captured, we repair, Russians armament deployed against Russians. And one of the armor factories comes to me and says, sir, we have a Wunderwaffe based on T-62 platform. We took away the turret, we put some additional armor, to large caliber machine gun, great armor personal carry for assault troops. By how much? How many? Well, we have set the price, and when I hear that, I see that it is going to be sort of a big lie. A price making had happened according to the methodology produced by the Cabinet of Ministers decree, and I definitely understand that it is going to be an overpriced. Once again, the price. So 15,700,000 Kryvda. That's when dollar was some 30, 32. And if you are not part of this system, let's say $500,000 for such a vehicle, but for a single problem, if we would not produce a couple of platforms on the T-62 platform, spending 1.2 million hryvnia, 15.7, 1.2, similar product. So that's about the efficiency of utilizing the taxpayers' money. Thank you. Besides tons, dozens of tons of TACMED purchased by a small Tata's fund, you also purchase expensive antibiotics. So tell all the right words were said. I was going to ask you, when volunteers alarm and yell, the problem is coming, something is going to happen that we would like to prevent or work in advance, are you heard? Antibiotics first. Well, there is an enormous problem with antibiotic resistance. We almost have no single clear hospital and clinic. That's the disaster, a disastrous disaster. The protocols on utilizing antibiotics not always been adhered. sometimes they were spilled over. We have to understand that antibiotic resistance, that stabilization points asked for us, and we sort of terminated. But we talked to medics, they understood and stopped requesting, because then antibiotics were not working at the residential clinics, depending on the loudness of the voice and our united effort. There are not so many volunteers in the medical sphere, and if we could be heard. And there is a case when volunteers raised this big issue on tourniquets, on insufficient supplies of tactical medical supplies. Something was changed. The case that the entire state can share blood, that was Masha and Irina, volunteers initiative, who needed that more than others, and now we can transfer blood. Targeted evacuation, again, it started with Irina, because she decided that she would like to bring her soldiers straight. And medics, units, medics, brigade medics, they been engaged to knock to some senior doors, to Ministry of Health. Whether they hear us, not always. There are some basic things. You may think that the problem with antibiotic resistance, we have clinics where doctors do not wash hands after they touched the client. So touched one, touched the others, touched third, made a great video, how great he's doing his job, and everyone applauds. But people who are part of this sphere look at that and said, what the hell you are doing? Because we see that infection being spreaded all over. That's terrible. We're trying to do something with that. We're trying to speak about that. We constantly speak about antibiotic resistance. The problem is that we don't have enough antibiotics, especially at the end of the year. So I purchased some stocks last year. I got leftovers to make sure that the clinics would get access to that, because then the go-betweeners purchase and sell it 4 times more than they should be originated. So a terrifying case. So we bring antibiotics from abroad. It's a deep reserve stocks, antibiotics. Unfortunately, we do not have a proper warehouse for antibiotics, or for deep stockpiling for antibiotics, which are not registered in Ukraine but are effective, so to be used to people's life saving. But volunteers are trying to do something with that. Thank you. And Olga, question to you. Superhumans, incredible. And then veteran comes back to their little town, village, or city, comes back home. Why it is not upscaled? That's fantastic superhuman experience. And why you can't become a center of excellence yet and teach everyone? Well, there are so many triggering words that it's difficult to. First of all, come and ask how much to pay for, because state pays multiplied 3, and we show that's you, that's us. So we wait until Nabu would come, and maybe something is just then infectious safety keeps me tensed. Can we upscale? We can. We have 650 pages of franchising we wrote. We described all the procedures for Superhuman Center. Just take it and implement it. The question is in implementation, and Tata said that infection safety clinics, our clients come quite often. We are third or fourth state, and they bring the microflora of every clinic or hospital. They bring the infection. That's the when we come and say fund our infectious safety. How are you going to report for that? Because we have to clean things. So some cleaning assets, cleaning devices. No, that's not sexy. how about we put some screens, because you cannot report with clothing, but those cleaning clothing saves lives, but these are procedures to be implemented and then controlled, oversighted. We came to then say if the client arrived by train, if he stayed in the car, he got an infection. If someone was infected, so entire car is infected. Oh, we're here for the first time about that. So now we get to their cars and our infection control and to tell them what goes wrong at which stage. We are a center of experts on infection evacuation because we did this exercise. We came to the state and said, so many people been evacuated. This is a shorter period of staying in a clinic if you evacuate properly. These are the savings to the state, and we return the soldier back to the front line in 3 months. And they said, no, cannot be. That's our people. We will decide whether we will cut off their limbs or not. But we came with figures, so everything could be upscaled. If there is a will, there is a will, there is a way. Take these protocols. Someone has to make it happen. Besides things being written, that should be lived by someone, not only to oversight. If to make it proper, that's enormous investments at the beginning, but that saves lives later on. Antibiotics, expensive now, but it saves life on. Antibiotic now, that's a saved limb, an absence of the artificial limb that is going to be an expense for the state. But no one is thinking about future. Everyone lives today. So let's mess with today's and we'll think about future tomorrow. There is no long-lasting strategy, but it is all long-term planning. And it's difficult to think in future because Shahid's on top, because you're like a butterfly. One day, life, great, let's live tomorrow, we'll live tomorrow. How can you calculate the future expenses if you should think about 10 years old? Everything is written, everything is there, 600 pages. I want to see someone, I would put $100 on that page 60. Those who would find these dollars, I would applaud. No one would read to this 650 page. Our medical director is not reading, the one who.
I would like to add the following to explain that what Olga has just said. Antibiotics today means that somebody's limb is saved when a person is contaminated. There's a decaying process. You need antibiotics to stop the decaying. I'm explaining you in plain words. And quite often it happens that the reamputations because of this infection, which blossoms in the hospitals. And if we deal with it, we can reduce the risk of limbs being reamputated. And so imagine we save that person's life because the Russians are killing our paramedics. So we drag that person and at the expense of the life of the others. But the person who saved on the battlefield actually dies in a hospital because we don't wash our hands before surgeries. We don't buy antibiotics. We are saving money, not buying rags. Imagine the effort that you make to save the person, but then you're saved. You tell yourself, I'm alive, but then you die because of that damn infection in your wound because the hospital that you're taken to doesn't have antibiotics. Dear colleagues, I don't want to stop with this sad piece of information. We've been talking about senses. We've unpacked the philosophy categories because of which we live in Ukraine. We bring up children, we pay taxes, we give donates. Senses are dignity, liberty, freedom, solidarity, human rights, and the rule of law. This is the list of the European values, and I'm quoting my second year student in politology who is fighting. He told us the European values are wearing Ukrainian pixel military uniform. Freedom means drones procured by Serhiy and the other Serhiy and by other funds. We, dear colleagues, let me finish. We've been talking what makes them wake up, not keeps them up at night, what they can do with the help of your donations. Thank you very much, the City United, for this great opportunity. We've been talking about what keeps us work and makes us be good citizens. I will be quoting the following: the key reason of the Russian-Ukrainian war is that the Ukrainian cultural identity needs to be the Russian thing, need to be erased. The Ukrainian cultural identity erased, meaning that we as a nation will be annihilated. Antibiotics, artificial legs, drones, shaheds are our existence, our liberty. Thank you very much. Serhiy, I would like to add a couple of words. I would like to wrap up some positive words because we've been in the minority over these recent minutes. We are talking about inefficient use of funds by the state, about the people who are not fulfilling their obligations. So we are not observing the problems. We're also trying to uh, resolve the problems. A fund is not just me, but there are lots of people who work there. Yesterday, a person who is responsible for a lot of work in our fund approaches me and he gives me a bad piece of news that in Poland, will not have a meeting with the business people because of certain reasons, because they are afraid of anti-Ukrainian in because but so you need to tell the person something good news and then a bad news. But she goes, we have another good piece of news. We've been having the negotiations for 6 months with the U.S. network to have a roundup for the check. So it's 99.99. Take it to 10 and give 1 cent as a donation. And now Prytula Foundation USA is now on the list of the charity list that is in that set of funds. You know how the structure is called Walmart? It's Walmart. And I almost started crying because this is a nice piece of information. I want to finish with a small line. Number one, I would like to express my gratitude to those who donate to the projects, to any funds. Thank you very much for your given money to the institution. For anyone who is here, this is extremely important. Our philosophy is not to take a cent, but supporting institutional activities is extremely important because if a donor who gives money to the salary, if this donor goes away, we will need to work harder. We would like to work with you. We are breaking the rocks. We do all we can. Last year, the businesses could painfully donate 4% of their income. This year, you can this percentage is increased to 8%. This is a double growth of tax-free donation, and it's not in vain. There were people who were talking to the parliament and they were trying their best to have this opportunity of 8%. We would like to cooperate with DSCT more fruitfully. The the donor wants to give 10 million hryvnias for the anti-drone Shahed. We receive only 9 million because to give donate to us means taking the capital from the country. We are a charitable fund. How come that we need to be we are required to pay services and fees? This needs to be fixed. I think I want the people who make decisions, please meet us. We will find the common language, set the criteria for us to be so that we don't lose the money that the donors give us. Please. Can you also help us to establish the dialogue with those companies who have foreign capital, who said yes, please approach Mr. Prytula. We've been having problems. There are companies. For 4 years, we've been visiting them. These are big companies of billions of US turnover. We tell them, please give us money for this project. And we hear, you know, our head office in Vienna, Austria, Tokyo, and Warsaw, and Berlin, Washington, D.C. The corporate policy of our company does not allow us to donate to the military purposes. So earning a big buck in Ukraine is what their corporate policy allows, but to thank for the only reason why they can conduct this business, thank the Ukrainian soldier who protects its business is something that the corporate policy does not allow. Sometimes it's very difficult to get across to those businesses, to the CEOs here or to the owners elsewhere in the world. But you talk to them at different platforms and meetings. Probably I'm asking you to help us because with the volunteers, we are not beggars. We are services. We please use us. We resolve your social responsibility issues and we help those who help you, who protect the country and let you benefit from being in the Ukrainian on the Ukrainian market. So the cooperation and joint understanding is what the future all about. Please talk to your colleagues because sooner or later we will exhaust our internal resources. People will lose their motivation. Businesses will go away, but foreign businesses who earn here has got to be more socially responsible. Humanitarian sector, paying taxes, great. But if there's no army, Ukrainian army, nothing will you will have nothing because there'll be no state, there'll be no business. Let me finish with one more sentence. If social responsible businesses are foreign ones, which is are afraid of donating to not popular topics, well, shooting down shaheds are humanitarian is a humanitarian mining, but it happens demining, but it happens in the skies. But if they don't want to help the Ukrainian soldier today, when the front is in Ukraine, it they will eventually help to will need to help their soldier when the front line moves into their territory, which we can see it may happen pretty fast, and the Russian drones do not stop. They don't observe the frontiers and state borders. They violate them easily. And when you are donating to the technical medicine, you are saving lives. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. Please, I would like to tell you that business, volunteers, and state all together, we will sustain, we will survive. Unity makes force. Thank you very much.